That's one problem with Greenwood is you never get that kind of feedback from um, students because you don't get that many students in Greenwood because the population is what.
It's not a bad population. I think I've seen places smaller have schools. There is competition. There's a taekwondo school down the road. Probably picks up some of the students.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They are good though. I've heard nothing but
Yeah,
good things.
I absolutely.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
when I see things come across my Facebook feed all the time, no complaints.
Mhm.
I had a good friend. I forget. There was some reason they had a good in that school, and they decided to go there. I thought it was good.
I had a student recently who, uh, you know her, is a mutual student of ours, and she was like obsessed with Taekwondo because she watches all the movies
Right,
and stuff.
right.
And she was like, "Oh, I wanted to go to Taekwondo
Oh
at that
no.
school, and they didn't accept me as a student." And she was like, "But you did," and I was like, "Yeah, great. It was very fun." So, but I'm not in a position to reject students, you know, and
Yeah.
they seem to be in a place where they can. So
Wow.
that just says they're successful at least.
So this is interesting. Like I have looked in karate business. Like white belts are more labor intensive than more advanced belts.
What does that mean?
It means you have to spend more time with them.
Oh yeah, right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Labor intensive on my part and their
Right.
part.
Right, but particularly on your part.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you start a school and you have a room full of white belts, you've done like good marketing, and they all come in.
Mhm.
Let's be optimistic. You know, they come in. It takes a long time to get them going, and
Oh,
then you don't want to lose them.
Yeah. Uh, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about, maybe even on camera, is what do you think about the belt system in its current state, as it stands? I mean, they're all different; they have different colors, but as it stands, going from white, blah 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 blah, black. What do you think about that? Is that something you value, or?
Way, you know, there's the element where you can large belt tests are nice because
Right.
you know it's an event. Parents like to see it, and some more opportunities for that are nice. And there's an element where it gives you intermediate goals. It's more important, like if you don't have a heavy competition oriented school, to get that motivation.
Yeah.
The belt gives you some intermediate goals. As an owner, there's often a fee associated with giving belt tests.
Mine is the cost of the belt. I should probably up it if I want to make some money
Okay,
eventually.
I'm trying to help you sell yourself here. Don't.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm ambivalent about belts in the abstract.
Okay.
In the abstract, I finally felt like a black belt when I got my second degree, and I'm
Okay.
like, you know, it's kind of like I finally, after I took a half dozen graduate courses, I finally felt like I had what an undergrad should have.
Yeah.
So I try to put a little pressure on myself, and I know that from a competitor standpoint, belts kind of determine where you're at. So some schools like to take that slow.
Have you progressed since getting second degree?
I'm a fourth degree
Okay.
now. Yes, and remind me. I want to talk a little bit about your history too. I want to let you make because you've been around for a while.
I've been taking karate since 2002,
Okay.
and it's 2023, and I'm 28 years old. Y'all do the math. I don't know. I can't do the math. That's all right.
Until you're 30, you want people to do that math.
Yeah.
And then when you're 70, you want people to do that math again.
Yeah.
I don't want people to do that math.
Yeah. But so I competed for a while, and I got all those 20-foot trophies.
Okay.
Baloney.
So that was
yeah.
still a thing in the 2000s. 'cause
Oh yeah.
I did a stretch in the 90s, and then I didn't do very much karate. Like I was at a taekwondo school briefly in Las Vegas, and I went to one tournament out there. But
Did you do a taekwondo tournament? Was it full contact?
you know, I showed up. I showed up to a tournament to hang out. So this teacher at a school out in Vegas was like, "I'm training for the Olympics. I need people to train with. Just you don't have to pay," and that always feels good. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you know, I showed up, and it's like, "You're a pretty good fighter. Come work out."
And that was taekwondo.
It was the TKO Taekwondo School around 03, 04.
TKO. That's traditional, more traditional, isn't it? If I have my knowledge right.
They
I'm
called
not
them.
sure.
We called ourselves Taekwondo for a little while.
Marty Knight.
Yeah, it was
they're so similar. It's almost it
They're
doesn't
very
really.
similar. I had this conversation just 2 days ago with some friends. There's a lot of similarities. Taekwondo is a little more kick heavy. Competitions are a little more
Weighted
uh,
towards kicks, right?
well. My understanding is that if you knock someone out, you win. I may not have that right, but I went to a school for a few months and I showed up at a tournament to hang out. And yeah, this was after I left my 2 sessions at the UNLV boxing club.
Yeah.
They were like, stand here. I'm like, I want to hit people, and they're like, stand here, throw punches, just like this. And I'm like, I'll go find a karate school.
Oh, that was before you did karate.
That was before. Well, that was before I did karate in Vegas.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
I was working a master's of computer science at UNLV.
Okay.
And yeah. So.
Wow. And that was your time out in Vegas.
Yep.
Okay. Had no sense of the timeline.
Right.
I just knew the places, and they were in the ether. They were juggled in the air. That's cool. How'd you like the Taekwondo school, and how long were you there?
How long was I there? A few months, I think.
Mhm.
It was nice enough. It was a new school, so that's part of the reason that he was eager to have people to train with.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of somewhat younger, somewhat lower belts.
I know a lot of, speaking back to how similar karate and Taekwondo are, I taught in Georgia. I moved down there. My little excursion in Georgia, I was there for a year, and I taught karate at a karate school.
Okay.
And 3 months in, let's kill the fly. I didn't even have my chopsticks. I taught there for 3 months in, and I found out they were a traditional Taekwondo school because at the time I was doing like a summer camp thing. And then 3 months after, I started teaching karate classes after they had vetted me or whatever their process was. But it was called United Karate School, and they told me after some digging that we're actually a traditional Taekwondo school. And they said all the terms in Korean, but I didn't care. I didn't really listen. I wasn't paying attention. I just wanted to hit the bags, work out, and not like my school uses Japanese terms, so I wouldn't know if there was a difference anywhere. I don't know if you've ever been to a school that uses Japanese terms.
When I first started in the 80s, it was a bit more of a traditional background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we use Japanese terms, but it was a lot of like horse dances and just
Formal techniques.
right.
Well, this school was like traditional Taekwondo. I think it was not WTF, World, whatever the alternative is. I don't know the
Right, because
politics
Taekwondo
involved.
is like the Catholic Church. There's a hierarchy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
you to get your terminal belts or to get the highest ranks, you travel and you go. I knew the owner of a school down in Lugolf hosted magic tournaments because I'm a big card player too. And the state magic championships used to be at a Taekwondo school. And I remember him talking about traveling to get his belt.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
The world is a small place, isn't it?
It is. It is.
That's funny. But this school, they didn't. I can't remember what I was going to say. Whatever it was, they
The
were.
school you were teaching at in
Yeah.
Georgia?
Yeah, I didn't find out until 3 months in they were a Taekwondo school. But when I went to a tournament, they did say karate tournaments are 1 point for all techniques, no matter where it is. Even front hand of the body nowadays, which is okay. But theirs was kicks are 2 points, belt and up, obviously, and punches are 1 point, no matter where it is.
Okay.
And I thought, what am I doing here? I'm not a kicker. I mean, you know me, I'm not a kicker at all.
So now, I mean, there are different rules. So local tournaments are usually slanted toward lower scoring 1 point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like spin or cartwheel kicks are 3 points.
Oh, here, let me do that. Turn that off. That's all karate tournaments nowadays.
So, I mean, I don't know about all. They have different systems. But the big NASCA events will go to 3 points for techniques.
It's pretty cool. Is that for the reason I assume that they don't want to exclude Taekwondo people from
But that's an
participating?
interesting thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's how they do it in Taekwondo. Sometimes they'll do 1 point for everything, like karate rule set, because they're drawing from the same community in their mind. And I know a lot of Taekwondo schools in the 80s changed their names to karate school because that's what was the moneymaker.
Wow, that's super interesting because, like I said, in the '90s, there was a stretch where we called ourselves Taekwondo.
Yeah.
We weren't part of the Catholic hierarchy of Taekwondo, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's
So they are basically the same. And I think there's some history to it where Japan adopted karate from Okinawa, and then Japan's influence on Korea was so
yeah.
influent. There's probably some history on it. I just don't know it.
Right. I have no idea. I have no idea if it's in history.
Yeah.
I'm guessing everywhere needed some form of combat, and these are the things we got independently. That would be my guess.
No,
But I have no idea.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was a history major at Lander. That's why I go to Lander sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know if I knew that or not. Yeah.
Well,
I thought another one of my friends, I recently said, you were a history major, right? And,
Yeah.
and he was like, no. So maybe that's what I was thinking. I'm so sorry.
What did he coach baseball or something? They usually are history teachers.
No, I just thought he told me. He teaches history in school.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, he's the one earlier that I talked about had the school karate program.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So he teaches history and he runs karate at school.
Did he go to Lander?
No.
What is there a school in Belton, or did they just go to Erskine or something?
I don't remember. I can't. I don't remember where he went. I feel like I should know that about it.
Yeah. Well, Marty went to Erskine, and I think he taught at Erskine.
I believe he taught at Anderson.
Oh, at Anderson. That's right. Dwayne Scott's wife, Jane Scott, I think, went to Erskine and taught karate there. I don't know. Once again, I don't know. But I think that's something like it. Knew there was Erskine involved. But yeah, karate in Greenwood it's had its ups and downs for sure, but I think it would be fun to see like a point karate club at Lander. Point karate in the park is super dope. Who doesn't want to do karate in the park?
Yeah, and like I have enough. I plan to be here Mondays at 4:00 for the foreseeable future until I have someone express interest at a different time. I might change times if I have some interest there.
Yeah.
And I have enough freedom to do that once a week in a sustainable way that I don't need to make profit off of competitive karate. I just want people to do that, and maybe you pick up some students, or maybe I pick up private students. I don't know, but I just want to show up and spar with people.
Oh, that's what I meant to ask you. I had a question a while back, and my brain is fugazi. It's all over the place. But what's your method of teaching? Because I was in your class for that seminar style lesson, but I didn't know if you had a different way of teaching if you're teaching a regular class, and I didn't know if you taught forms, because you have a good competition background in forms, right?
In the '90s, I did compete in forms. More successfully in sparring. I was the 92 12 to 14-year-old intermediate state championship. State champion. That was the year. The circuit was pretty big that year, so it was something. But it was like one of those former gifted kid things where it's like you want to try not to stay too attached.
Yeah.
And I was good at forms because Dwayne, with us, he just corrected. It was a lot of repetition and correction.
Yeah.
It was just like do this, and then walk around, adjust here, adjust here. And he was also, much like Marty was a model of how to be a fighter, Dwayne, the sort of intensity that he brought to forms, I guess, also served them. It's probably hard to have the confidence to give really loud kias if you're not seeing someone do that.
Yeah. I did not know that you were that involved in forms. That my experience, I have a twin brother, and I'm the runt of the family, and I'm fairly large, but he is all about forms, and I think he trains up in Annapolis, right outside of Baltimore, in Maryland, and he is just very, very good at forms. He's always practicing.
Okay.
And he's one of the best fighters I know, point fighting including. He's pretty good at, not any good enough to compete in competitions, but he can hold his own
All
and
right,
he
so
won't
let's
look
step back.
stupid.
Let's step back. You don't have to be good to compete.
Exactly. Yeah. Or to be a good competitor.
Yeah, you compete to try to, measure yourself and push yourself to improve, to have goals, to focus.
Mhm.
I tend to train harder, and I think most people do when they look out and they say, "Well, I have something here that is rewarded for training hard."
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And he is, and but he's so natural on his feet, and he has such good structure because of those forms. So I wonder if you include forms in any of your lessons now or recently.
right. So I haven't taught very much recently. In Belton, when Marty is absent, other people typically handle that,
Mhm.
and
He does forms still.
we do a little bit in the way of forms. We're mostly a fighting school.
Right.
The night school is always focused on that, and I was lucky to get that blend of both fighting and forms because of Dwayne's interest in forms, which was a little less common in our school.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but I have enough of an interest in forms that if I take on students, I would insist that they have that background before issuing any belts.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Um,
That's interesting. Wait, you would want them to have some understanding of forms and
I would want them to have a passable, I would probably push competing in forms enough so that I'd be convinced that they were acceptable, reasonably good at that. Because I feel like you can make a curriculum entirely around fighting because there are enough different styles and there's enough ways to think about fighting that's doable, right? I'm not against that.
yeah.
In addition, to feel like I was giving someone something of enough value to be like, pay me, and to say to other people that this person knows karate, I would want personally to give them something in the way of forms or self-defense. I'd want at least like 2 of those 3. And in the 90s, I did enough. Again, Dwayne helped to round out my background.
Yeah.
And I did enough in the way of self-defense that I felt at the time probably competent to pass that on.
Yeah.
And I really haven't maintained that. I really wouldn't. I don't know how much of that I would want to try to teach now.
Yeah. Because it's so far removed, probably.
It's been a long time since I've spent any attention on self-defense.
Yeah. Well, fighting is the best form of self-defense, if you want my opinion.
I was talking.
I'm sure Brackett would agree. I'm sure Marty Knight would agree.
I was just about to say, I was talking to Brackett about this recently, and he's like, yeah, we teach for self-defense. Sometimes we just teach people a good sidekick.
The Gracies in Brazil, that's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu founders. All they taught for self-defense was how to have a good closed guard. But the first thing they taught was keep people away from you. Do you know how they did it? With a freaking sidekick. And they said, knee, body, no higher than that.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy? I learned that from Alex the other day when
Right.
he had a whole Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I said, that's not Jiu-Jitsu, that's karate. But even Judo does sidekicks. I don't know if you knew that, but all the martial arts teach sidekicks.
I'm not familiar with
boxing,
Judo, really.
what's the number one punch in boxing? Jab, which is pretty much a back fist, or the same concept of lead hand going
Right.
first.
I've been trying to get myself out of the habit of trying. If someone comes in, I'll throw a ridge hand sometimes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, don't. It's hard to get that to score. Just
Straight out.
Straight out. It
Yeah.
stops them. It's,
Well, good fighting is good self-defense, and you need a little athleticism to compete at a high level, but not as much as people might assume. You don't have to be shredded and have abs and muscles on your muscles. I've seen overweight competitors do very well. I've seen short competitors do very well. I've seen tall, obviously they have it easy, but all body types, it seems, can compete. Like that kid that beat one of my students that was physically gifted. You would agree? I mean, that kid
right.
was...
Bentley is super driven. He's
Yeah.
really hard on himself in a way that you don't see as much as you used to, I think.
Yeah.
And And the kid that beat him was kind of a little more relaxed. He just had Johnny Six from Brackett School up in Inman.
Yeah.
He just calmed down and timed him.
Yeah.
He just once he got his head in the game, he was just waited for the moment and laid body punches in.
And that's what's so good about point karate is people think you have to be Dwayne Scott, who's 6'2" and 240 pounds to be a good competitor, or to make it work in an MMA setting even. But you don't have to. I mean,
and we've talked about teaching some here, and what you have to give to different people.
mm-hmm.
And I had 2 instructors, and they provided a very different view. Dwayne was a very good teacher, and my instructor, he was one of my instructors, and my other instructor, or my lead instructor, Marty Knight, was inspirational. He was like, he would run 10 miles,
Yeah.
and then kick us all in the head. He would run it was absolutely incredible. He was a visual model for how to fight before the YouTube era,
Mm-hmm.
and he could get a lot out of you. In particular, I think you find this over the years, very selective words of encouragement to get people to push themselves harder. And I think that this gets more out of a certain kind of person, and it's super interesting to see what different people, how different people approach things.
Yeah. Even within such a niche sport as point karate, even is because Marty Knight and Dwayne both do point karate, but Dwayne is a little more entry and generalist approach, beginner friendly, I think. Not that I have much experience with Marty, but
No.
Marty is so good at like polishing and making absolute competitors. And
Well, our school is super beginner friendly.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's
But it's which way you lean. Not that Dwayne doesn't have high level competitors or Marty doesn't have good beginners. It's just, I don't know.
well, there's definitely that need to have everyone there and participating. So there's definitely the multi-track mindset where you have competitors and you have classroom students, and
And they're all fighting alongside each other with a system that's not going to give them brain damage or break their joints. Like, I don't know if you've ever done Muay Thai, but if you get kicked in the leg enough times, they don't really teach control and pulling punches and controlling your kicks, and they'll, like, a blown ACL is just weekly for them. I don't know how they work insurance. But that's one thing about point karate that separates point karate from those other martial arts is it's so light contact, and you can get to a super high level or stay at the same level and still have a friendly sparring match with people at a higher level, even if you're down at a beginner level. And it's user friendly. It's like Netflix. Any fat guy on the couch can work Netflix.
right.
Anybody can do point karate because it's so user friendly.
It really is. And I remember Marty used to tell a story when he started karate and was training when he started in school and was training for his first full contact match, that he just had 2 younger students to train with, and he would get in and hit them and get out, and his opponent couldn't touch him because he made use of the people that were there, he sparred with those people, and he didn't need adults to win the match. I hope I remember that story correctly, but that's the way I remember it. It was a full contact match sparring.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know it now. I can put that in my arsenal. You don't need all these people. You can train. Like, didn't you start with textbooks?
Say that again?
Didn't you start with textbooks as your punching bags or your targets?
Absolutely. I learned a lot from I didn't have a punching bag, and in my room I had a bookcase, and it was like technical manuals. Technical manuals. I was in middle school, and I'd ordered a bunch of Apple II GS technical manuals, and they were the same size, so it was a clean surface, it was a flat surface.
Uh-huh.
And this is in a previous video, and I would hit them. So I learned good control because my punching bag was very hard.
Yeah, no kidding. You don't want to break your hands on textbooks.
And I had a fence. I had a bad post that I would kick at, and that was even better at teaching precision.
Yeah, no kidding. You ever seen those videos where kids will they'll put a a soft target on a corner of a wall and kick it, and it'll drop down at the last second, and they'll hit the corner
No.
with their shin.
No.
You ever seen those videos? Those guys, they freak out.
I don't ever want to see those videos.
No, that'll teach them good control, though. They'll know. Yeah, but the same principle is it makes sense that. So that's why I think point karate is going to make a comeback. Not because it's cheap and accessible and all. I mean, it might be cheap and it might be accessible, but it could also be $100 a month, or I think Upstate Karate is $200 a month because they have a UFC champion, not a champion, but a UFC vet to work with. So, but whether it's cheap or not, it's still, you're getting the training you need under the circumstances you need. And in Muay Thai, you get the training you need because you're learning how to fight. It's just pretty much full contact, and that's hard on your joints and your
I've heard
body.
people discuss this recently, and the discussion, the brief discussion I heard was that it's become a little better on that front because people learned over time. I don't know if you found that to be true, that it might not be true, but that people training the kickboxing have learned that it's not a good. I'm not sure. I might have been watching one of the Upstate Karate video. It is Upstate Karate with Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
That's there. I watched a few of their videos. Maybe that was some commentary there. Maybe that was some. I shouldn't say that. Maybe the discussion I heard was a little bit spin oriented. But
well, they've done a lot of scientists or people that aren't me.
The royal they.
Yeah, yeah. They there's a lot of studies come out from football, but they've tried to make it work for contact sports in general, and karate falls under that. And boxing especially, there's a lot of gyms to pull from in areas like Harvard, Boston. There's a lot of boxing gyms up north specifically.
That's interesting.
So they do a lot of CTE, I think it's what it's called. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically brain damage and how your brain hits against your skull when you get knocked out versus repeated concussions over whatever it is. But they've basically come to the conclusion that anytime when you're training over a long period of time and you get sustained small amounts of damage to your head, it's way worse for your brain than just getting tackled in a football game.
Okay. Or
getting knocked out cold in a competition.
That's really interesting to hear because I did go to the hospital a few years ago to the emergency room after getting all but knocked out.
In competition?
In competition.
Well, that's why I think competition is good because, well, full contact specifically, I've done a couple of those fights and it was only 1 3-minute round of full contact. But those are fun and it's good to test how you'll do in a live setting with someone trying to hurt you. And all that to say that point karate style of training with light contact, and even Taekwondo practitioners do the same thing where they do light contact and then they do full contact in their competitions, some of them. But that style of training is much better for your brain health over the long term. Even if you're competing in a full contact sport, or even in the UFC, those people, once they get knocked out, it's not like your brain is ruined after that knockout most of the time. I think there's some exceptions. Like you can develop epilepsy. But there's the same risk with football, except you can become a multi-millionaire with football.
All right, let's work on our PR here. We're here to sell karate.
Yeah.
And
But that style of training is much better for your brain health, as opposed to training hard and then fighting light. I don't know that that's a thing, but
well, training hard and fighting hard, much worse than training light and fighting hard.
Yes, there you go.
And most of us aren't going to be like on TV.
Right. No.
Right. I've certainly heard my instructors say things like the first time I was on TV, and I haven't heard anyone else say that.
Yeah. How relatable is that?
That's kids have dreams, but
chase those dreams.
But
and they can't achieve them.
They'll get knocked out.
Yeah.
Along the way.
Yeah, no kidding. But
so yeah, I wanted to give you. We got off track again here, but you started 21 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And so you've been at this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any interesting stories from that time? at one time, were you ever a competitor?
Oh yeah, I competed.
Right.
I did okay. My brother, I was kind of like in the shadow of my older brother. We're
Mhm.
twins, but he's 25 minutes older. Hold your breath, you know.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but he was always
identical twins.
no, thank God he's.
Oh no.
Well, anyhow, he was always the good competitor. He was like state runner-up in wrestling, all-American swimmer, went to Yale, Vanderbilt. You know, one of those kinds of kids, a real go-getter. And I was more laid back. I competed out of like necessity. I think like he
Okay.
wanted to compete, so I was his training partner.
So okay. So was his success motivational to chase him, or was it?
No, I was forced to. My parents were like, "Your twins, we're paying for this tournament. You may as well go too."
Okay.
So I went to.
But was it demotivational?
No, no.
You were just okay. You were just.
I think of it like this. There's a certain point where your emotions and intellect can kind of hold you back almost. But I joke with my friend. A friend of mine is a PhD from USC. I think he's a professor for the Peas department.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what that means, but he.
What is that? It's something in exercise science, physical education and exercise science.
Okay, yeah, he's a doctor at USC in South Carolina, not in California, and I joke with him about we were just dumb enough to not like be pulled in too many directions. I had a singular focus. I knew what I wanted out of life, and I didn't want so many different things.